Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. We're going to be previewing our conference matches this weekend against Quincy and against Lewis, both at home here. Matt Zibashevsky is our guest during the middle segment. And when we come back, Arnie and I will talk about some losses this last weekend against a pretty good Ohio State and a pretty good Ball State team. So please keep it here. Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. Our sponsors for this segment this week are Alco and Dairy Queen. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and head coach Arnie Ball's with us again. Seems to show up every week, no matter what we say about him.
Nobody else will come. We sure don't want Mike Moss on here, so therefore I have to show up.
Right. He does threaten to fill in whenever you can't make it, doesn't he?
I mean, Mike and Ryan is kind of like a dog and pony show, so, you know, we got to make sure that we're here to do the real thing.
Well, and you stand them next. They were in the break here. They were giving us the business about Abbott and Costello, and I guess you'd take Ryan and Mike and stand them up next to each other. Got 6'7". Ryan Parado weighs about 140, dripping wet.
That's a lot for him.
That's a lot. He's overweight. Yep. He's no longer displaying weight. And then you got old Mike Moss, who's not quite that tall and just a little bit heavier, a little grayer too.
Yeah, there are a lot of things we could say about Mike.
So,
there are a whole bunch of adjectives we could use.
But you know what? We're going to elevate this conversation. We're going to start talking about Ball State and Ohio State.
That's because Dan Gebhardt has influenced you way too much.
Actually, I talked to him, and he said he did not watch last week.
Well, let's go back to our usual trash talk then.
That's right. But he's liable to watch this week, so we'll talk about volleyball. Two losses. Actually, both nights looked a little bit alike in that we got beat the first two games. You take them into the locker room for 10 minutes, they come out and play very well in Game 3. Against Ball State on Friday night, we won Game 3. We probably could have won on Saturday night in Game 3, but we didn't.
How do we get in the maybe we just stay in the locker room and play down there.
Well, maybe you ought to just instead of having the hitting warm-up before the match starts, take them to the locker room.
We could do that.
Whatever you're telling them down there, you need to tell them earlier in the night.
You know, I don't think we told them anything either night. They knew I was so upset with them that I didn't say anything to them. We got that brand new locker room down there. I don't want to break something before we get it broke in just a little bit. I could have Saturday night.
There is a brand new locker room, nicely remodeled, and
I could have done that, but I didn't. I was well behaved.
Well, that's good.
I didn't even coach them the first two games. I was so mad at him. Chancellor asked me what I was doing. I said I was being a fan. Not a very good one.
You're sitting down there with all our redshirt players.
Yeah.
Who think they're assistant coaches.
Well, we were having a lot of fun down there. Wasn't much fun up on your end.
Well, I will admit that the fun level went up when you moved to the other end of the bench.
So maybe that's the secret.
Yeah.
I was actually up with Donna and Kurt Hazlett before the match started. And they asked what I was doing. I said, I'm just up here visiting. It's not much fun to be around my team right now, so I'll be up here with you guys. And if I wouldn't have been for Hanson, yeah, I got to go down and go, good luck and all that kind of crap, I'd have still been up there in the stands.
Okay. Well, so do you want to talk about the matches at all?
Yeah, we can talk about the matches. Absolutely.
Ball State, people think they're probably at the top of the conference, but actually Ohio State looked really good offensively. They passed very well. I just did the offensive statistics for them, and they cited out at a percentage of 65%, which is very, very high. Whereas Ball State, I think they were only around 40% on a side-out percentage.
Well, I thought Ohio State served the ball really well Saturday night, better than Ball State served on Friday night. I thought they served the ball pretty well, which didn't really give us much of an opportunity because we didn't handle serve either night very consistently. And so therefore, you know, right now the strength of our team is in the middle, and so we had to put the ball where we really don't want to put it offensively. and both those teams were able to load up on us. And on the flip side, we didn't serve the ball. Angel's been our best server, and he didn't serve the ball very well. Ryan Staley can, but he's so streaky. We didn't put enough pressure on them that they were able to side out the efficiency level you're talking about.
Actually, Saturday night, I think, was probably our worst serving performance overall. It's not just the 2 errors that lost Game 3 for us at the end there, but overall, the stats I keep, it's probably the worst of our season.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything to particularly point at in regards to that. You play back-to-back, and some people said, well, Ball State, Ohio State back-to-back. I said, well, you go to the conference tournament, you may have to play Ball State and Ohio State back-to-back. I mean, and besides that, Friday night we had over 1,700 people here, and Saturday night there were over 1,500 people. I mean, we had great crowds. I mean, if you can't get ready to play, and when you have that many people in the gym, you're probably never going to be ready to play.
Well, some of it, like with a serving stat, some of it is how well you serve, but there's an opposite side to that equation. That is how well the other team passes. Sometimes you can serve very well, but they pass very well. And other times they can let you get away with some weak serving by simply not handling the ball.
Yeah, I thought Ohio State even passed the ball better than Ball State did. We got into Game 3 that we won against Ball State, and I thought Josh Sanders especially, served the ball really well down that line with that float serve and short serve, and really took them out of some of their offense. But we never were able to do that with Ohio State. Did a little bit in Game 3, but I didn't think Ohio State played as well in Game 3 as they certainly did in Games 1 and 2. Both those teams came here ready to play. Part of that, I think, has to do with the fact they know both Jeff and Maddie are out, and so they're licking their chops to kick our old behind. If anybody likes to kick our behind if they get a chance to, and I understand that part for sure.
One thing you talked about how Josh and Angel in the middle have been the key parts of our offense. Mitch Dreisbach has been getting a lot more sets. This weekend he got set quite a bit both nights. And he got a lot of kills. Now Friday night he had a lot of errors. I think he hit near 0, but Saturday night he reduced the number of errors while keeping that number of kills up.
Well, Mark, the real problem with our team obviously is some inexperience at really key positions. But we talked to the kids yesterday about unforced errors. You alluded to the 2 serving errors at the end of the match in Ohio State. I mean, you feel badly for the kids that did that, but in the same token, those are errors that are unforced. Nobody makes you make those except yourself. And you talk about Mitch and how many errors that he had. And in some cases, that's directly related to our passing or setting, but in a lot of cases, it's directly related to you got to be able to put the ball in the court or find the block or do some stuff like that. Our hitting percentages over the weekend was very, very dismal, and a majority of it is because we made so many unforced errors, hit balls out of bounds consistently. Instead, I mean, even if you get blocked, you got a chance to cover and play again. We can't even hit the block. And so it's made it very difficult for us to score very many points when you make all those unforced errors.
The key is still you've got to take a long-term view of this team. You've got 3 freshmen starting on the floor, and they've been a month now into their very first season, and they just need to get better a little bit at a time. You can't. You have to eat an elephant a bite at a time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, we certainly know it's going to be a slow and painful process for all of us who've been around for a while. For those young kids, it's painful because they want to be better faster, and they can't get better faster. And Coach Smidlin made a really great comment about these 2 matches this weekend. Those 2 games were too fast for our young kids.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for a young kid to gain experience in an experienced team, much like Jeff Patak did when he came in with a bunch of seniors.
Absolutely.
When we return, one of our young kids who isn't playing, Matt Zbyszewski, who's out for the season, will be here, and we'll talk a little bit about his injury and his career. So please stay with us.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
Was in another lifetime, one of toil and blood. When blackness was a virtue, the road was.
If we do not take responsibility for saving animals from extinction, we allow a part of ourselves to die with them.
shelter from.
Help World Wildlife Fund protect animals in the places where they live by ordering a free action kit. Together, we can leave our children a living planet.
Come in, she said, I'll give ya shelter from the storm.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our sponsors for this segment are Farm Bureau Insurance and Freedom Financial. Our guest this week is outside hitter Matt Zbyszewski. And the first question we've got to ask you, Matty, is given Coach Ball's problem with pronouncing easy names, why would he even bother recruiting you?
I don't know.
Your name can't be pronounced, period, by English-speaking people. You got too many consonants in a row.
I don't know. Some people actually don't have a problem with it at all, and some people seem to struggle with it. I don't know why. I find it pretty easy.
You find it easy.
Zbyszewski is not that hard to pronounce, but I guess that's just for me.
But it does get pronounced a whole lot of different ways, doesn't it?
Yes, I've seen so many different variations of the name pronounced, names that you couldn't even possibly figure out from the spelling of it. It's just like, how did people come up with that? It's...
And then your dad calls you what, Maciek, right?
Maciek. Well, that's my real name. That's my actual
Matthew in Polish?
Well, Matthew is close to it. There's really no distinct name for Maciek. Matthew is pretty close, so that's why it just became Matthew. Maciek, I guess, was just Maciek Zbyszewski would have been impossible for people to do.
But I noticed this last weekend your mom now calls you Matty.
Matty,
like
yeah.
all of us do.
Well, and she becomes used to it, and she figures if that's what people call me, I guess she goes along with it. When we're alone, she still calls me Maciek, but in front of everybody, I'm Matty now.
You are from Toronto, in Ontario, but you moved there as a small boy, right, from your hometown in Poland, which is in the southwest corner
Yes.
of Poland. In fact, it is not far from Fort Wayne's sister city, Gera, which is in the state of Thuringia in the eastern part of Germany.
Yeah, we're actually maybe an hour away from Germany and an hour and a half maybe away from the Czech Republic. So we're like right in the corner. It's a fairly small town of Jasień, which is maybe like 6,000 people. So it was a pretty small town. I moved when I was 10.
10? And most of your education then has been in English-speaking schools, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, as soon as we moved in, got put into a English-speaking school, and it's been going since then. I mean, got put in right away, and it took me 2 months to pick up the language, and stayed in that school. And
you played volleyball in high school. You played with the club. In fact, we saw your old club coach up at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of club. I mean, that's when I started playing volleyball. I started in high school, and my first year when it actually picked up is my friends came up to me and said, well, there's this club team. Do you want to play? I was like, sure. I mean, nothing else to do. I might as well do that. And it was so much fun, and just stick with it.
Last year you were a freshman and entered the starting lineup in a outside or swing hitter's position, which meant you were also a primary passer, and that's not really what you were used to playing, was it?
No, I've played middle most of my life. So last year was the first time I had to pass ever and swing left side. So it was kind of uncomfortable at first, and I guess I kind of sucked at first, but
I don't think we're allowed to say that on a family channel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was a Polish word that meant that his play was subpar. So then this fall, coming back more comfortable with your position, obviously, and right off the bat almost, and fall training gets going, you injure your knee.
Yeah, I worked hard over the summer, played a lot of beach volleyball, and that helped me with my passing. And I worked out quite a bit, got so much stronger, and came in the fall, like maybe 2 weeks into it, jumped to hit a pipe, backcourt, landed wrong, twisted the knee, tore my ACL.
You went through surgery and through rehab, and actually, from what the team doctor said and the trainers, you recovered quite rapidly. You did a really good job of getting the knee rehabbed and strengthened again.
Yeah, I mean, I figured since I put so much work into it in the summer that, I worked so hard to play, and I was playing pretty good. So I figured, I got to work hard again to get back to where I was. And I put a lot of time into it. and it looked like I was ready. I felt real good, knee was strong, was jumping okay. Just freak accident happened again.
And what Matt's referring to, if you didn't see the game, our first night of the season against Long Beach State, we were in Game 5.
Game 5.
Actually, we had 3 attempts, 3 possibilities of winning that match in Game 4 where we made errors.
Yeah.
But then we get into Game 5, and early in Game 5, you came down wrong and retore the ligament, didn't you?
Yeah, retore the ligament and both meniscus. I mean, well, like I said, it was a freak accident. Pretty much same thing happened that happened in the fall. Kind of went up at an angle and landed wrong on it and buckled on me.
So that obviously meant you're out for the season, and you're what's called a red shirt, so you don't lose a year of eligibility. Jeff Patak, who also had an ACL injury in the fall, came back that night, and after seeing what happened to you, he and Coach Ball and Coach Midland and our trainer Dan Fox and the team doctor, Dr. Pritchard, I think all talked about it and decided maybe it'd be a good idea for Jeff to sit out as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a good idea. I think he probably wasn't at the same point where I was in strength-wise, and so, I mean, he was as prone for it to happening as me. So, I mean, if it happened to me and the stage I was at, then it was a possibility for him too. So it's better that you take the precaution and rehab it more and come back strong for next season.
So you've been demoted to assistant coach, right?
Yeah.
You get to sit on the bench with down there by Coach Johnson and
Yep.
get his words of wisdom all night long, right?
Definitely. I get to put on a shirt and tie and look good.
Yeah, in fact, we've been meaning to talk to you guys about that. All of our red shirts come in wearing ties, and the coaches, we kind of dress down a little bit. Of course, we do that by experience. We learned a long time ago that during timeouts you get up, the players sit on your chair, and then they leave, you get back. Well, they're sweating. You sit down in a pool of sweat, and you soon realize that is no situation to be wearing a $600 suit to, right?
Exactly. I still remember that first game we came to, you told me rule number 1, always check your seat before you sit down.
That's right. Check your seat before you sit down. So while you and Jeff and some of the others, JT and some of the others sitting down at the end of the bench and helping coach, you're seeing a bunch of freshmen out there, and I think we've seen them get better already just a month into the season.
Yeah, they definitely have improved quite a bit from when we were in Canada. There's a huge difference. I mean, it looks like they've learned from the experience in Canada, and they're playing a lot better. You know, they're more confident on the court. So.
And you understand that issue about confidence. You played. You had some older players with you, but by and large, it was a young team last year. We had a couple players who were new. You and Isaac and some of the others. We had Ryan playing as setter, and he had not been our setter before that. So you had a similar situation last year.
Oh yeah, I've learned a lot about confidence. I was lacking it at the beginning of the year, definitely, just because, you know, it's new spot, playing in front of so many people, and, you know, it's high-level volleyball. So I was lacking a little bit of the confidence, but I picked it up as the year went along.
So you picked up last year the confidence as a player. You're going to pick up confidence as a coach this year. You're going to be telling us what to do by the time we get to the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be calling the plays from now on.
That's quite all right. I'll just kind of sit up in the stands and on a softer seat and take it easy. Right?
I'll take care of El Guapo.
You'll take care of El Guapo. Matt, obviously you hope to be back next year. We'll have these freshmen back, some new players in that are being recruited. Jeff will be back for his last year because he's also being redshirted.
Yeah.
So while this year might seem like it's going to be long, it's definitely a training situation for these younger kids, and next year we should be very competitive again in the conference.
We should definitely be very competitive. Next year is the year that I think most of the guys are looking forward to, and I know Jeff and Angel are definitely looking forward to, because Jeff, being part of the 99 team that went to the Final Four, he knows what it's like and he wants to be there again. And it looks like we have a good bunch of guys.
In our last minute here, Matt, what are you majoring in?
Geology.
Geology. Now, I was talking to your dad this weekend, and let's see, what did he say you were specializing in?
I really don't have a field.
I think he has an idea. I can't remember what he said now.
I don't know, paleontology maybe?
Maybe that's what he said.
Yeah,
that word sounds too long for me. I'll ask Coach Ball when he comes back on what that means. I'm sure he'll know.
No, I mean it's a weird subject, but you know I like it. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of opportunity in it.
That's sophomore redshirt outside hitter Matt Zbyszewski. When we come back, Arnie and I will talk about this week's home matches against Quincy and Lewis University. So please keep it here on Channel 56.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our sponsors for this last segment are Fujifilm and Marathon Ashland Oil. This weekend at the Gates Center, we are at home both nights, Friday and Saturday night at 7 o'clock. On Friday night, we'll be playing Quincy in a conference match, and then again on Saturday night, we'll be playing another conference match against Lewis. And then on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, our women's team, basketball team, has their final home game of the season. All three of those will be televised here on Channel 56. That means the Iron Man will be behind the mic, probably doing his Abbott and Costello routine. He's been practicing back there in the control booth while we've been trying to tape this show.
It sounds like to me he's going to be severely underpaid this weekend.
Even more so than normally?
Severely, I think. Underpaid.
Yep. So we've got, actually I guess it'll be both Mike and Ryan, all three of those contests, right?
I think that we ought to take up a goodwill offering at the door for our two expert 56 TV commentators, don't you think?
Well, you don't do that in the women's volleyball season when I help.
Well, you get paid the way it is. Way too much, probably.
That's right. I get the big bucks.
I know I do, so you probably do too.
That's why I like those longer matches, because we're paid by the hour, so the longer they go, the more we get paid. That's right.
Yeah. Poor Alco suffered this weekend, didn't they, huh?
Yeah, they did.
No?
That's right. So, we were talking in the first segment about the younger kids and the experience, and the confidence they have to gain. Maddie talked about confidence is a big issue for a first-year player. Quincy, maybe on Friday night, they might be a team that's a little closer to us in experience level, and perhaps we can have some success against them.
You know that I have to jump ship here. You know I have to do that before. We will talk about Quincy, okay?
Okay.
But you know I have to jump ship because I'm pretty disappointed in Maddie.
In Maddie?
Pretty disappointed in Maddie. Because you and him were having that discussion about his name, how difficult it is for me to pronounce, of which I still can't pronounce, and I admit to that. But what he didn't tell you that he has a new nickname.
Oh, he didn't bring that up.
No, he didn't bring that up. And that's pretty disappointing because I think a young man of his intelligence and demeanor, I mean, my wife is in love with him. She's in love with all the players, but, she's in love with him and his mom and dad. And, they were down this weekend because he had the surgery last week. And 2 weekends ago, I took he and Jeff Patak to church with me. And on the way out, an older gentleman came up to Maddie and he had his name tag on. Of course, this is kind of indicative of a geologist, probably. And the gentleman said, "Well, Hattie, how are you doing today?"
Hattie?
Hattie. and Maddie didn't have the fortitude to go, you know, sir, my name is really Maddie. So he's now called Hattie.
Hattie.
But he didn't mention that, did he?
No, he did not mention that.
I think that's pretty...
We may have to bring him back and retape the...
Yeah, Hattie the geologist.
Hattie the geologist.
Yeah.
Let's call him Rock Boy.
Yeah, we can do that too.
So, do you know what paleontology is?
No, don't have a clue.
Neither do I. I think that's something with things that are old.
That way is way too long for me.
I'm pretty sure it's a study of things that are real old, so we're probably in the textbooks.
Well, Mike Moss fits in that for sure.
Yeah, Mike Moss. And how about Quincy? Let's see if we can get back. We got 2 minutes left.
Okay, let's go.
Get back to Quincy.
What about him?
So they don't have Mr. Steinkühler, who was their big gun last year.
That's correct. Unfortunately, because I think that he was an advantage to us. Because he made a lot of errors against our team.
He did make errors against us.
Yeah, they don't have him back.
So other than that, is it pretty much the same group?
It is pretty much the same. They have the same setter. They have a new opposite, a kid from Sweden, left-handed kid who's pretty good. Obviously, we've seen him on tape already. Their middles are offensive. They set a lot of middles, but they don't block any balls. So it should be a real war between our two middles, providing we can handle their serve. And they don't serve the ball nearly as well as either Ball State or Ohio State did. I think this match will be a very competitive match, one that we certainly have an opportunity to win. But the Quincy team is not as strong as either Ohio State or Ball State.
And what about Lewis?
Well, Lewis, on paper, should be as good as anybody in the league. You know, they have both Brazilians back. They have both middles back. They have a new player from Puerto Rico that everybody raves about, Victor Bird. And then they have a kid from Mexico who was on the Mexican national team, but Ball State spanked them 3-1 2 weeks ago. However, they turned around and beat Stanford, you know, a week and a half ago. So they're kind of on a roller coaster right now. They'll be a much better team, certainly, than what Quincy will be. It just depends on how well our kids can play back-to-back again.
And then after that, we go on the road for a while, don't we?
After that, we are gone, it seems like forever. I believe you told me 5 out of 6 weeks.
4 out of 5 or something like that.
Something like that, and we're going to the West Coast, the East Coast, and...
Going to Quincy, which
yeah,
is...
down on the river.
Down on the river. So, both matches this weekend here on Channel 56 on TV at 7 o'clock, or come out to the Gate Sports Center. Don't forget the women's basketball game at 1 o'clock on Channel 56. For our sponsors, Alco Dairy Queen, Farm Bureau Insurance, Freedom Financial, Fujifilm, Marathon Ashland Oil, Head Coach Arnie Ball, our guest, Matty Zavashevsky, the entire crew here at Channel 56 Sports. It's Mark Franke. So long. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. This week we're going to preview our road trip to Quincy and to Loyola in Chicago. Mitch Dreisbach is our guest, and when we come back, Arnie and I will talk about 2 tough losses this weekend in conference matches here at the Gates Center. So please keep it here on Channel 56. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and this segment is sponsored by Alco and Dairy Queen. Arnie, we lost 2 matches this last weekend. Both cases, I think we lost in 4 games, although they're a little bit different. On Friday night against Quincy, we won the first game and then lost the next 3. And against Lewis on Saturday night, a very good Lewis team, by the way, we lost the first 2, came back, played very well in Game 3, and then lost in Game 4.
You know, I think we need to change the order of our sponsors. Ice cream and that favorite drink of
You're going to
alcohol.
get me in trouble with Dan
Don't
Gebhardt
mix.
again because
Do not mix.
well, sure they do.
No, they don't.
They mixed quite well Saturday night at Coach Johnson's house after the match. I personally field tested that theory, and I can prove that it's wrong. They do mix.
All right, I stand corrected, but what do you want to talk about?
I forget. John, we might have to restart this segment. I forgot. I think my question was about
Big Mike can straighten us out.
Big Mike. Yeah, he's back there. In
He probably
control
field tests their theory too, probably regularly.
Yeah.
Huh? Huh?
Well, I don't know what theory he's been field testing, but
It's, Alco distributor and Dairy Queen equals large mass.
large moss.
Large moss. That's even
right.
better yet. That's even better yet.
I probably better be careful because I do fill this chair quite well.
Well, we won't even throw Coach Johnson in the mix.
No, we won't.
Huh?
Well, Coach Johnson, by the way, when I told him Saturday night that I made no progress on our contest over who could lose the most weight, I told him I made no progress last week. He did not have a comeback, which leads me to believe he didn't make any progress last week.
That's probably why he was out walking late last night.
That's probably true. Back to this weekend. We really went into Friday night thinking that we ought to beat Quincy, and all of a sudden things kind of fell apart on us, didn't they?
I still think we ought to have beaten Quincy, huh? I don't think there's any doubt about what we should have beaten Quincy, especially on your home turf. You don't give up your home turf to a team you should have beaten, and we played very well the first game. 30-23, totally dominated the match, and then they switched their middles around. As I'm looking at your charts today, they switched their middles around. The next thing I know, we can't stop their middle. Our middle blocking is like a sieve, and they're just ripping the ball through our middle and on our left side, number 6, and let's see, I think it's in rotation 3. As I looked at that stuff today, beat us up badly, and we just didn't play very well from there on out.
I think in Quincy's, to Quincy's benefit, I should say, their back row ball handling was as fine as anything I've seen all year. They, if their blockers got a touch, they ran the ball down and had a nice pass to the setter. If the blockers didn't touch the ball, they popped it up so that the setter could get under it and try to run at least a decent set. I just thought they played very well in the backcourt.
Well, I think that's true of both teams this weekend, Mark. I think Quincy did that, and I thought Lewis did the same thing, especially the Libero. I thought he dug a lot of balls, and we watched the tape yesterday, and it confirmed what I thought, that both those teams handled the ball in the backcourt really well. And, our offense is still somewhat predictable in regards that we're going to run the middle, and we did. We were in the middle against both those teams very, very well. Josh and Angel in the front court. Angel struggled a little bit in the back court against both those teams, but everybody's loading up on him. But the other thing then comes down to our team is the inconsistency of handling the serve, the first ball, because if we don't, we can't get the ball to Josh and Angel. And Josh is very limited in what he can do offensively because he plays only the front row. Angel has some variety to it. But if we don't pass the ball and get the ball to those guys, we're going to struggle.
Now, the interesting thing was going to Saturday night, this was a very good Lewis team, but their middles were not effective against us.
Well, they're actually more of an outside hitting team, and especially the opposite, because the setter and the opposite are both from Brazil and have played together. So when they need a crunch time or a key set, it most generally goes to the opposite. And I don't know where the guy from Florida came from on the Lewis team. All of a sudden
he had a
career.
Yeah.
And it seems like everybody careers against us. But we were concerned about their middles, and their middles weren't a major factor against us.
That's
not
true.
at all.
They flipped their middles too, didn't they?
They did, and they subbed the one out.
Yeah, that's right.
They subbed the one kid out. The kid came in and has a great big bushy hair. I don't even know his name, but once again, those two middles weren't a major factor against us. Certainly the opposite was in that one left side kid. And, you know, everybody had been raving about the young man from Mexico, and I didn't think he was a major factor against us either. Statistically, he wasn't. It was the opposite in the young man from Florida. But they have so much experience on their team, and you match their experience up against our youth. Mark Pope told me afterwards it looked like the men playing the boys, and I said, it is the men playing the boys. You know, they got a couple guys that are 24, 25 years old, and we got our 18 and 19-year-old snot-nosed kids out there trying to compete, and there's a difference for sure.
One thing I think you did a very nice job on is the way you did the substituting of first. Mitch was struggling to put Jason Morgan in, who hasn't. I don't think he's played opposite in a match this year, has he?
In his career.
In his career, well, and he played pretty well. You had let's see, you started with you. We moved our two outside hitters so that Ryan Staley played next to the setter. Nick Bellman went 2 away, but then you substituted Aris in for Nick, and then Nick came back in at the end. So you were, the fact that you have a young, inexperienced team, you were, and I know this is very hard for you. In fact, you did 2 things the other night that we don't normally see out of Arnie Ball. One was to use substitutes rather frequently, because normally you like to stay with the lineup you've got in there. The second thing was those early timeouts you called.
I know, I had to catch you off guard at something.
Yeah, that's right. You said, how many I got left? I said, none. You've used them both.
You know, obviously that's been a tradition. I've always tried to hang on, and especially now that we get the technical timeout at 15, I think you can hang on to those a little longer, but I just got so frustrated, I guess, the other night, and people tell me they need to use them earlier, so I'm trying to listen to my mentors in regards to that. The substitution thing just becomes a matter of we got all these young kids, and they're not going to get any better sitting here on this bench. You know, the night before we played Matt McCarter, and he came in early and did some really nice things, and then of course had that unfortunate service error at the end, and he, you know, his mom and dad and the whole world probably thinks that's why he didn't get to play. But we need to see Jason play, and Jason's not ready to play on the left side yet. He's just not ready. Don't be surprised to see him in the middle here one of these times before too long, because he has some experience in the middle as well. So those kids have to get a chance to play, and we needed Mitch to sit down and look at what was going on and to regroup himself in regards to his effort, at least that we thought he was giving.
Well, it is important with a young team that when someone struggles, you get him off so that he doesn't get out there and bury himself to where his confidence is shot for weeks or months or forever.
Yeah, forever.
That's right.
Especially working with me, because I can bury him.
I've been doing it for 13 years, and I still have plenty of confidence. I'm not sure in what. When we come back, Mitch Dreisbach will join me, and we'll talk a little bit about this last weekend with Mitch, so please stay with us.
Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Let me show you something amazing. This is Amanda. She was born with a serious skin condition. You're about to see it disappear. Some might call this magic, but the real magic's happened on the inside. The child's self-esteem has been restored. Don't let anything get in the way of being a kid. This is David Copperfield for the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our sponsors for this segment are Farm Bureau Insurance and Freedom Financial. Our guest this week is Mitch Dreisbach. Mitch is a freshman opposite from the Elkhart area, right? Mishawaka area. Went to Concord High School?
Penn High School.
Penn High School, okay. I was I got the general area, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm not sure why I forgot. We had John not too long ago. And
a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks. Well,
yeah.
My short-term memory's been gone for a long time. Now my long-term memory's disappearing too. One of the reasons we've got Mitch back is it's not always easy to get players on the show. The reason being, we tape this at noon on Tuesday, and a lot of our players have classes.
Classes and quizzes and stuff, yeah.
So your two roommates, you said, one of them has a quiz today, and another one had a different class. And
yeah, a class
so they sent you.
12:30 and a quiz at 12. So yeah, I was the third option, I guess.
Kind of like you feel sometimes on the team, right? You're the third option. Well, I should probably point out that the academic performance of our team, despite the fact we're losing on the court frequently, our academic performance has been very good. If I remember right, our team GPA for the fall was right about at 3.0, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, with me, basically, you know, athletics has been my stronger part than academics. But I've tried this first semester to really establish my academics and get that in order, because you can't play without your academics. And with everybody's been studying real hard, and I can study with my roommates because we take the same classes and things like that. That academics has been a strong point in our team this semester.
Well, obviously, you're here first as a student, and although you are here to play volleyball, by the time you finish your senior year, volleyball's over, and then you've got 40 years of trying to earn a living, right? Nobody will care that you played volleyball.
Right. Yeah.
So that is a good attitude to take. Let's talk a little bit about this last week, and I know you were a little frustrated on Saturday night. You got the hook early, which is something, though, I suppose a freshman ought to expect. And when we talked the last time, you said your biggest problem in your mind is to improve your mental toughness, your ability to do the right thing, as opposed to just simply executing something. And I think what got you the hook on Saturday night was a mental mistake, wasn't it?
Right, yeah, I was just playing a ball that was obviously out, and just me not thinking and just trying to go after a ball, making an effort to the ball is, without thinking, really, that definitely got me the hook early. But again, the mental, and if I mess up, make an unforced error, I need to regroup and come back strong. And it's been tough for me, and Coach has no problem taking me out and sitting me down and letting me relax, and then get my mental part of the game back and getting back into the game.
I think there's probably two positive aspects to all that. First of all, if you are struggling on the floor, being able to come out and, like you say, settle down, regroup mentally, as much as anything, it takes some of the pressure off, and you're ready to go back in. You were called back in on Saturday night at the end of the match.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I wasn't helping the team, and he saw that, so he took me out and brought somebody in that could. And so I got a chance to relax and just to figure out what I was doing wrong and what I can do right and how to change that in my head. So I ran through what I had done in the first two games and why I'm sitting there on the bench and figure out, what I need to do if I get called back in. So I stayed stretched out and kept running things through my head and supporting the team from the bench, which is about all you can do. And fortunately, I got called back in and tried to help the team out in the end.
The other thing that's a benefit to this is that there's someone on the bench who's pushing you all week long in practice, Friday and Saturday nights when we're playing. So that does help motivate you a little bit more, maybe just get that little last ounce of effort out of you when otherwise you might tend to let up a little bit. So that it's kind of having to look over your shoulder and know there's somebody back there waiting to play.
Yeah, definitely. That having somebody breathing on your neck, saying that they'll come in if you keep screwing up, is definitely keeps me in the game and working as hard as I can. Because I sat on the bench on Saturday, and that's not a place I want to be, and so I do work harder on the court, knowing that someone can replace me and will. I mean, he has no problem. Coach has no problem taking me out of the game. I'm nothing special that he has to keep me in the game.
I don't remember whether this was last week on the show or the week before, but we talked about you and your offense. Early in the season, you were not much of an offensive factor. You didn't get set a lot, and you typically had hit at a low percentage anyways. Over the last couple of weeks, you've been starting to see more balls, and you're getting a lot of kills. You've had a lot of errors. You've been reducing those, but the number of kills you get per attempt has been going up. So apparently you're becoming a little more comfortable with Dennis as a setter, with the kinds of plays we run, and also just being on the floor, playing against some very good teams like we saw this last weekend.
Yeah, in practice we've been speeding up the sets to the right side and from the back row. And in the beginning, it took a little while to get adjusted to that, and now that I have, I have no problem with my offense. I need to be a little more like you have to start, slow to fast instead of fast to slow.
Right.
And I've been trying to get used to that. And now that Dennis and I are on the same page, it has come a lot easier. And with an offensive weapon with Angel and Josh, I mean, you only have Angel or Josh, and then on one of those two guys, and then you have the left side, and then me from the back row or from the front side. So yeah, I definitely have been getting a lot of more sets, and I mean, I'm happy to see them. So
we talk a lot about the timing between a setter and a middle is so critical, but even when you're hitting out on the pins like you normally do, the timing's important, like you mentioned. Especially as you're getting used to a setter. And Dennis is a brand new setter. He's been switched from an opposite this year by Coach Ball and being trained as a setter, and so he's still not technically the most proficient setter in the country.
Right.
So you have to make sure you know where the set's going before you take off, or as you say, if you're going fast to slow, you're losing your momentum. It takes a lot off the ball and reduces the number of options you have as to how you hit it.
Yeah. Definitely, speeding up the sets. With the middles, you have to. It's all timing. I mean, you're in the air before the ball is even touched by him, and it's kind of like that in the right side. I mean, we want to speed it up to the right side, so that the left side blocker doesn't have a chance to be able to cross over and get up and make a block, and to take out the middle on the other side. So we've been speeding up the right side and even the back row attack out of the blue, speeding it up so the middle isn't able to come over and help block, so I'm only hitting one-on-one. And that has contributed to me being able to get more kills and less errors and stuff, because I'm only hitting against one blocker, which two hands is easier to hit against than four.
That's right. When Mitch talks about the blue, that's our term for the set that's out of the back row on the right side, near the sideline there by the pin.
Yeah.
Basically, when you're back row, you're hitting back there. When you're in front row, you're hitting up closer to the pin.
Yeah.
You talk about the quickness of the set and the blocker. Obviously, you hit one way if you're one-on-one. If the blocker's late, it opens up the line. So you have to be a little more of a shot maker when you're getting that quick set, don't you?
Yeah, you have to have more. You have to be more versatile when you do in that quick. With the one blocker, you got to be able to see if he's blocking angle or line, and if he's floating or not. And I'm adjusting to that too. I mean, I haven't been doing this hitting right side for very long either. So it's been hard to adjust to that, but I'm getting better at it, and Coach runs a lot of good drills in practice to help me with my shots.
One of the things that an experienced hitter will develop is the ability what players call tooling the block. Obviously, if the block's late, you can go down the line, or if he's on the line, you can get it inside, and you miss his hands. That's great, and that looks great to the fans, but some of the most important shots, the most valuable kills, are when you take it off his elbows, off his hands, because you know that if you hit it just right, you let the blocker make a mistake and block it out of bounds.
Right. I mean, if he's late coming over and he's floating, you know that you can hit it off one of his left hands and it just sails out of bounds or inside. Definitely, a tool is a great shot. I mean, yeah, like you said, it may not look good to the crowd, but to the people that play volleyball, it's definitely a good shot.
Or if his hands are not strong, they haven't penetrated the net, but they're pretty much vertically in line with the net, you know that he's not going to block the ball back down on your side.
No, I mean, you can just send it right off the top of his hands and off his elbows, like you said, if he's not up and over. I mean, if he's a weak blocker, there's definitely a lot of shots you can do.
And while you're thinking of that as a hitter, you also got to think about it as a blocker, because that's what you got to learn how not to do when you're blocking, right?
Definitely don't want to be a tool.
That's right. That's freshman opposite hitter Mitch Dreisbach. Mitch has seen a lot of playing time this year as a freshman, and maybe we'll have him back on the show one more time. If everybody else is in class taking tests while we take. When we come back, Arnie will rejoin, and we'll talk about this week's road trip, so please stay here.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, it kills over 1,500 people every year and injures 71,000 more. Inadequate sleep has been linked to health and safety risks, even premature death. But today, new treatments are helping millions get the sleep they need. So talk to your doctor or take our free risk assessment on the web at sleepfoundation.org. Sleep deprivation. It's real, it's dangerous, and it's more treatable than ever.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids, who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our sponsor for this last segment is Fujifilm. Actually, we have two, Fujifilm and Marathon Ashland Oil. Arnie, we talked a little bit about the academic performance of the team. I don't think you and I have talked about it on the show yet, but we had a very good semester academically in the fall.
Highest one in the history of our program.
And it was right about at 3.0.
A little over 3.
That's pretty good. A 3.0, for those of you who don't know what it is, that means basically a B average. And there aren't that many people who graduate with 3.0s around here because it is difficult to maintain an average like that. Then you had 6 weeks of practice and all of the, the physical training and so forth. So that's quite an accomplishment.
I'm real pleased. We've talked to our kids. Our goal is always to try and have a 3.0 GPA, and we've never had it before. Last spring, I think we were 2.9 something. In fact, it was the highest team GPA on the men's side. We men can never beat the women. They're always way above us for some reason. I guess they're just smarter than us. I don't want to necessarily admit to that, but it sure seems to be that way.
I hope your wife's watching.
Yeah. And the men's tennis team was above us this last semester. But we've talked to our kids a lot about that. We meet every Monday evening out at a facility away from campus and meet with the kids individually about grades, and we try and monitor them. We've not gone to a formal study table. I'm not a great believer in a formal study table. I think our kids are smart enough to recognize that the reason they're here is to get an education, and if they're not going to get to play. And so we try and hold them individually accountable, and then of course have a team goal and hold the team accountable as well. We had 7 kids that were recognized a couple weeks ago for being above a 3.0. So I'm just real pleased with the kids academically.
Well, you see them studying when we travel. For instance, when we're flying back from Dalhousie, Nova Scotia, I was sitting next to Ars Heracleus, and Ars kept asking me, what does this word mean? It would be a big English word that probably most native English speakers wouldn't necessarily have in their vocabulary. And so he had his dictionary there, and he'd look it up, and it still wouldn't make sense to him. So that's kind of typical to see a bunch of the players studying when they travel so that they don't fall behind.
Well, I'll tell you what else has been really nice with this group, and especially with the accomplishment of the last 2 semesters, is that we begin to develop a little peer pressure there, because obviously we talk about it a great deal. We actually had the kids put up on the wall on Monday night about 2 weeks before finals what they expected their GPA to be. I mean, they had to write it up there next to their name, and so, when we come back after the semester's over, I put that back up on the wall and I go, okay, who met their goal? Who met their expectation? And the guys that meet it kind of throw their chest out a little bit and point their finger at other guys and go, you didn't do that.
It's just one more statistical category.
Yeah, and one that we can measure.
You know what we need to do? We need to challenge Coach Hartley and her team to compare GPAs. We ought to beat her at that.
Well, right now they're a little above us.
Well, then we need to go after it.
It'd be a great challenge.
Let's target.
That's a good point.
Why don't we tell the players that will be our goal? Maybe
we need to do that. That's a really good point.
We're going to compete against them in the classroom, and we're going to beat them. They better start studying. This weekend we go on the road. We go to Quincy. We just talked about them in the first segment, but we also go to Loyola Chicago, which is having a pretty good season.
Well, Loyola just beat Ohio State last weekend. As a matter of fact, Dave and I were looking at the tape before we did the show here today, and at Loyola, that's such an advantage for them in that small gym, And now that their team is successful, they're having pretty good crowds, especially student population is coming.
The couch potatoes and the guys who dress up and sit in the end zone.
And they're there, and they're really rowdy. And of course, the small ceiling, with the rafters up there, and the ball bounces around, and they play it over. But they're playing really well. They're a nice team. That group has been together now for 3 years. And unfortunately, for us, even next year, they only lose one player. So it'll be a tough match for our young kids, especially.
I was talking to Coach Hansen a week ago after the match, and I said, "Well, I understand Loyola is their year." And he said, "No, it's not. Next year's their year." He said that kind of disparagingly. He wasn't too happy about it either. That group comes back for another year. It's mostly juniors.
Well, one of their stud players will graduate, and that'll hurt him a little bit. But certainly next year will be good in the league too. Ball State's going to graduate a couple guys. Of course, Coach Hansen's going to lose Holray, and that's his big gun. But we got to get through this year before we get to next year.
We got a young conference, don't we?
Yes, relatively young. There are some really star players that will graduate, certainly, and none from our program. But Holray from Ohio State I think he's the best offensive player in the league, and of course, Fasauer from Ball State will graduate, and so will their opposite. So that those are a couple of kids that are real strong, but they'll have a bunch of other kids back, and Loyola will be good. Quincy's pretty young. Look at Loyola or Lewis's roster. I think there's only one senior in that bunch, so it's a pretty young league.
Yeah, and we may be the youngest of the young because we got 3 freshmen on the floor, 3 or 4 at any given point in time.
Well, certainly we're very young and inexperienced right now, for sure.
Yeah.
That's once again, as you and Mitch talked about. That's why I got jerked out of the game the other night for playing that ball that was out of bounds, and then just older, experienced players don't make those plays.
That's right. So by the time he's a senior, he should never make a mental mistake.
Right.
That's the other goal.
Okay.
For head coach Arnie Ball, our guest Mitch Dreisbach, the whole crew here at Channel 56, and our sponsors, Alco Dairy Queen, Farm Bureau Insurance, Freedom Financial, Fujifilm, Marathon Ashland Oil, Smart Franke. So long. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next week. Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. This week we're going to preview a single home match on Friday night, and we're going to have our trainer Scott Knurr on as our guest. And when we come back, we're going to talk about 2 losses on the road this last week, one of which went 5 and was a real disappointment to lose. So please stay with us. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and our sponsors for this segment are Dairy Queen and Alco. And I guess you'd have to say this is the redneck version of the Arnie Ball Show. We both look like we've just come out of a lumberjack camp or something. Which
Yeah. I should have yelled at you across the creek this morning and seen what you were going to wear to work.
you wouldn't have caught me.
Well, how do you know that? I was up pretty early this morning.
I went in extra early this morning. I didn't know what I was going to be facing on the road. By the way, we taped this on Tuesday, so as you all know, we had some snow and ice, and we weren't sure what all we were going to see when we left this morning. So I was dressed ready to push my car out of whatever I got it into. And it was a real disappointment. The roads were basically, they were wet, but there was no snow on them.
Yeah, I went out and shoveled my driveway, and Pastor Fraser across the way, he was trying to do his, so I went over and did his too. And I got all done, and I said, you know, I'm just going to work like this, you know, because they're calling for more snow, supposedly. So, anyhow, nice casual day.
Yeah, I guess we didn't bother to dress up.
I don't think that hurts the integrity of the show, does it?
Doesn't hurt our image any. hurts the image of rednecks.
You
Is
know,
what it does.
might make Mike Moss look a little better. So maybe that's the reason why we did this.
By the way, speaking of Mike Moss, I was watching Sunday the Quincy match from home we played 2 weeks ago. I got through game one. I said, that's enough. No matter what Mike Moss and Ryan Parak could say about it, I thought, I know how this is going to end. I don't want to watch it anymore. So I watched game one, which we won, and then turned it off.
Well, you do more than I do. I don't watch the reruns.
You don't watch the reruns?
Unless we win.
You spend hours in front of that videotape.
I know. That's the reason I don't watch the reruns on Channel 56. Doesn't have anything to do with TV.
Well, I was really disappointed. I did it Sunday after coming home from Quincy, where we went 5 with them and lost. And I said it was disappointing that we lost, certainly, but to go 5 showed some competitiveness and some real heart in these kids that they need to show.
Yeah, I agree with that. And excuse me for pausing there a little bit, but you know, I've got to go back to a couple of our corporate sponsors and our director here in the studio, Big John. I mean, I think that Lee Bruick...
I know where this is going, folks, so I'm just going to take a break.
I think it's only appropriate here. I think that Lee Bruick from Mr. Dairy Queen and Greg Don, Mr. Alco, should take John's suggestion and for St. Patty's Day have a...
green beer milkshake.
Green beer milkshake. I think that's
if you can
only
say it,
appropriate.
you'll be served, right?
That's right. So, I know both those guys are watching the show. They always watch the show. So I'm sure that at some point or other, John, you'll be able to get a green beer milkshake for St. Patty's Day. Compliments of Alco and Dairy Queen.
Do you think there'll be a lot of demand for that?
You know what? If it makes a lot of money, we're going to take some of the royalties.
That's right. If it makes a lot of money, so. Should we alert our bankers to expect the large deposits coming in?
Just tell John and Mike Moss back here to drink a lot, that's all.
That's right. I don't have to tell Mike that.
John, we're just telling you that.
We're just telling you, John.
Mike doesn't need to be told that.
What I like about Mike is he's the only one I know that's got a bigger beer gut than I do, and so he's my hero. We've avoided the Quincy loss too long. We've got to get back to
5 games.
Yeah.
How many service errors in Game 3?
Oh, Game 3 was terrible. We had a lead. We had a nice lead in that, and we had 9 service errors. 9 service errors in a rally scoring game, so they only had 21 points they had to score on their own.
And let's see, we lost Game 1, we won Game 2.
Had a lead in Game 3.
And won Game 4.
And won Game 4.
Which means we could have won the match in 4, instead of that we lost in 5.
Yeah. But it was nice to be back in a Game 5. We haven't played in Game 5 since the first weekend of the season when we lost that heartbreaker to Long Beach. Of course, that was when Maddie and Jeff were still playing. And then Saturday night, we had to come back on Concordia to beat them in 5 here at home.
That's right. I thought that, you know, losing on the road in 5 is very, very difficult for kids, especially after we'd played the night before down at Loyola, or up at Loyola, I guess it would be. But once again, if you remember, we did some substituting in the Quincy match, and Jason Morgan came in, did a really good job. You were commenting on before we went on the air about that, about his serving in particular. You know, we put Aris in, and Aris blocked that left-handed kid, 3 or 4 balls in a row for us to win Game 4. So we did some things that you've talked about before in regards to my coaching philosophy, and put some other people in that normally we don't do, and they responded. Now, unfortunately, once again, we end up losing in Game 5, partly because we couldn't stop their middles. So, I mean, in Game 1, we couldn't pass the ball. We lost in Game 1 because we just couldn't pass the ball. But then both those middles tore us up again, and especially the one. But I was real pleased with Ryan Staley's effort on our team. His passing was really good. Certainly the substitution with Jason and Aris was a real uplift to us. A little disappointed in a couple of our other kids, but Angel once again had a great night offensively. He and Josh both offensively had great nights. So there are some things that we can build upon from the Quincy match. And I think that was a little bit of a carryover from Friday night's match with Loyola, where, if you remember at the Loyola match, we jumped out in the lead right from the very beginning, and then they served us tough, and we couldn't control their middles. They had a middle that hit real high percentage against us also. And they loaded up on Angel because we didn't have anybody else perform at a very high level offensively, other than, I guess, Mitch did a little bit. But in Game 3, we came back. And you remember that game was very, very close.
Right.
We ended up losing 30-28, and I think some of that momentum carried forward into Saturday.
But it was nice to see, because I think obviously we got a lot of freshmen playing. You think the season's going to be one where they gain experience, but one of the ways they have to gain experience is being in close, hard-fought matches that go down to the wire.
Well, certainly the Loyola match, even though we lose in 3, once again, the games are close, if you remember, especially the third game, but even the first game was close until they put that little mini run on us. And playing in that facility, that really small gym with the low rafters and the kids, the fans, they have a wonderful fan base, primarily of students, right on top of our young people. I mean, those are some of the things that they have to go through in order to become better players, and you don't get much of that in volleyball, especially in high school volleyball, for sure. So that part's a positive experience, and then having to get on the bus and travel half the night and then lay around in the afternoon and go play at night, and then make a little long bus trip home. I mean, I think those are all positive learning experiences for our young kids.
Was it a positive learning experience for us old guys?
No, I got nothing positive out of that bus trip home. Absolutely nothing positive.
Other than the fact that we weren't driving, so those buses are nice.
And Mark was a wonderful driver.
That's right.
He really booked it home. He did a good job for us.
You know, speaking of the snowstorm we've got today, normally the snowstorm in the spring comes while we're on the road, and our wives are back here mad as can be. Because
yeah, that's true. Your wife especially.
My wife and Denny's wife too.
They're all upset because they got to shovel snow and do that thing while we're gone.
We're usually in Southern California when the blizzard hits.
Well, there's still time yet.
There's still we could have another one.
I hope not, but there's still time.
I have to make sure my snowblower is working so my wife can use it.
My shovel works every time.
We'll have to tell Coach Johnson to make sure the heat's turned on in his house before he leaves. When we come back, Scott Knurr, our trainer, will join me, and we'll talk a little bit about the duties of a trainer, which are definitely varied. So please stay with us.
There's a chance we're back in town.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our guest this week is IPFW team trainer Scott Knurr. And Scooter, what's with the tie?
Well, I haven't.
You trying to make us hillbillies look bad or what? Not that it takes a lot of effort, but
Right. As you know, on the road, in the office, I hardly ever wear a tie. So I thought for the Arnie Ball Show, as we have in the second segment, I thought.
Yeah, it has become the Arnie Ball Show.
So I thought I'd spiff up a little bit, so anybody watching might think that I'm a high-class act. So we'll see who we fool.
Well, yeah, we'll have to find out how many people didn't or noticed that we didn't have the right logo up behind us in the first segment. It said Mastodon Spotlight. And they probably were wondering, if it's Mastodon Spotlight, where's Mike Moz? Because he's I'm sure, a sex symbol in this town. And when it comes to Arnie Ball and me, who wants us in front of the camera, right?
I guess you could say that.
We're going to have a first in this segment. We're going to actually teach somebody something. We're going to impart some knowledge, as opposed to just the normal BS that we unleash here during these 30 minutes. But before we do that, Scott, just give us a little background about yourself. You are a certified athletic trainer. You actually work for Health South, is it?
Correct.
But
right.
You're assigned to IPFW, and you've been with us now for 2 years.
Correct.
And your primary duties are with the women's teams, but like this last weekend, you traveled with us, and you also help with all the teams in terms of the therapy and in terms of the training on site and so forth, right?
Yes. And with only 2 of us here on site working, even though we've divided the responsibilities just to try to keep our sanity, there is a lot of overlap. And between Dan and myself, on any given day, we could treat any athlete, male, female. So
you do that to keep your sanity? You're doing it a lot more successfully than Dan Fox is, let me tell you. I think he's half nuts, but he normally travels. He got out of traveling with us this last time. He must have looked at a map and saw where Quincy was.
Yep. The deal was, last year I went to Quincy 3 times and said I wasn't going to do it again, and Dan said, bet me, and I got to go again. So.
Now we still get to go to Dubuque. We get to go to Newark, too. Dan's going to Newark, right?
You can't beat that with a stick. I mean, it doesn't get any better than New Jersey.
Well, one more piece of trivia here. When we were coming back on the bus, you said your wife Jen is also an athletic trainer.
Yes, she is.
And in fact had a brief 10 seconds of national fame where she was with the University of Utah football team. Tell that story.
Yeah, Jen, like you mentioned, is an athletic trainer as well, and she was a student athletic trainer traveling with the football team when she was a student there. And one of the, I guess, exciting things that you get to do as a student trainer is during timeouts, run out and give water to the team. Well, it was a timeout, and they were coming back on after the commercial, and Brent Musburger on this nationally televised game said, well, there come the water girls. And my wife's father, who was helping her through school, as soon as she got home, had to be watching that game and really wanted to know why he was paying for tuition so she could be a water girl. So she had to explain that, that isn't all that she does. But
there is an explanation for that, right? She
yes.
was able to. He didn't disown her.
Right. He didn't.
You get along well with your father-in-law now. He finds out that you have a career in being a water girl's husband, right?
Exactly. So I'll have to send him a clip of this so he can say that I actually know something other than water.
Well, we'll definitely. I'm sure he probably watches every week, anyways, doesn't he?
Exactly. I mean, he's got the satellite link up, clear out to Utah, and he's good to go.
Well, we'll make sure John gets you a tape. You can send it to him, and so he can be proud of it. Okay. Now let's go to the instructional portion of the show. You brought a little friend with you. Scott, of course, has been working with Manny Stashevsky and Jeff Patak, who both suffered ACL injuries, and he's going to, first of all, show us what an ACL injury is with this model, and then we're going to show some tape of an operation to repair it.
Okay. This is what the knee's supposed to look like, and this is pretty much what Maddie's knee was like before he had surgery. So what you've got here is you've got...
Do that again.
You like that?
Show us that medical
something like
there.
That, yeah. So this model's been through a lot. But what you've got here is the knee, and now I'm not going to be able to hold it up straight after making the funny joke. But you've got the femur and the tibia, and if you peel up, this is the patellar tendon. Get this out of the way. And inside here, you have the medial and the lateral cartilages, or the menisci as we call them, and then right here is the ACL, or the anterior cruciate ligament. And back here is the PCL, or the posterior cruciate ligament, which you don't hear a whole lot about because that one's pretty hard to injure.
Well, I got to congratulate you, Scott. You just set an Arnie Ball Show record. You used the most big words in a sentence of anyone who's ever been on this show. You're ruining our reputation here.
Sorry about that. So, and then you have the collateral ligaments that provide lateral stability. You've got the medial collateral, or the MCL, and then the lateral collateral ligament out here on the outside.
And which is the one that tore?
The ACL was this one right
The
here.
little one inside?
The little one inside, and for small as it is, it can really play havoc with an athlete if they tear it. As soon as you tell an athlete that they've blown their ACL or torn their ACL, their whole countenance is going to change because everybody's heard the ACL, and most athletes, at least at the collegiate level, have known somebody who's torn their ACL, so in a way they almost think of it as a death sentence for their athletic career, which is quite the contrary with medical advances that we have now.
But it is quite painful when it happens, isn't it?
It is. It's not a very pleasant experience.
Fortunately, we're not going to show the tape of the injury. We're going to show the tape of the repairing of the injury. So, John, if you have that, go ahead and put it on, and Scott will comment on it.
We've got the inside of the knee once this comes up, and right there, that instrument, that's a probe, and what that's doing is pulling at the torn ACL ligament. And as you can see, as the probe goes through there, there's not much to it. There's still a little bit of it intact, but for the most part, that's a pretty severe tear is there with the ACL. So now they're pulling out the probe, and what they're going to insert now are some scissors, and what they're going to do is remove that old ACL, because in order to repair the damage, you can't repair the torn tissue that's there. So we've got to get rid of that old ACL, clear that out, and ultimately they're going to use a graft to create a new ACL and run that through in place. And the common sites that they take that ACL graft from to make the new ACL is patellar tendon is a common site to take that from.
Where's the patellar tendon?
That is right in front. It's
Okay,
right under the
on the
kneecap.
knee.
On
Okay.
the knee, yes. But in Maddie's case, they decided, since volleyball is a jumping sport and patellar tendonitis is a common injury in jumping sports, they opted to take that graft from the hamstring, which is another very good, strong graft, but you don't have the side effects of an increased chance of jumper's knee and patellar tendonitis. So in Maddie's case, that was the better choice of the two. So that's all we're going to show from that clip. I just wanted to give you an idea that where the ACL was, and that they do have to remove that old tissue to put the new in.
So how do they attach the grafted one?
They do, as we'll get back here with the knee model. Like I said, one site that they can take that graft from is patellar tendon, so they'll take a section of bone from the kneecap and a section of bone from the tibia down here, the shin bone, and they'll take the middle third of that tendon, and they'll go in here, they'll drill a hole through the tibia, up through where the ligament originally ran, drill a hole coming through the femur and exiting here. So they'll take the strip that they took from the patellar tendon, run it up through, and fix it down here with a screw, and up here on top with a button, and that's going to create a new ACL for the individual. And then in Maddie's case, the hamstring tendon that they take, it's a similar procedure, except they run what's basically a cheese grater up through here. The hamstring is attached here on the inside. They'll take a long piece of the hamstring tendon, and then they'll fold it up a few times, run it through there, attach it with a screw, and attach it with a button up at the top. So you're creating a whole new ACL ligament.
And where was this done?
This was done over at Orthopedics Northeast by Dr. John Pritchard. He was the team orthopedist for us.
Dr. Pritchard's at a lot of our matches, isn't he?
Yep, he is. He enjoys the sport of men's volleyball.
And we try not to have an injury every time he shows up, but we've seen we've had our share of them.
Yeah. So.
And I just got the word from back in the control booth. Arnie wants to know about the meniscus repair.
The meniscus repair.
Well, that was a serious question. I didn't even know that.
Generally, in the past, and 15, 20 years ago, when you would tear a meniscus before they had arthroscopic surgery, there was no way to go in and trim out the damaged part of the cartilage. So they would go in there, make a big incision, and just go in there and pull out the whole cartilage. Once they got the technology for arthroscopy, where you're just drilling, or making a few small incisions, you're running a television camera in there and a small instrument that can go and make very small incisions in the cartilage, you could cut out the damaged area. But what they're able to do now, which is even better, instead of cutting out the damaged area, they can go in there and they have to make an incision on the outside of the leg, so it's a little bit more invasive procedure, but they can go in there and actually sew up the cartilage in some instances, so they don't have to remove anything, which can decrease the chances of arthritis and joint instability later on, which was luckily what they were able to do in Maddie's case. It slows down the rehabilitation procedure because it is more invasive, and putting weight on a repaired meniscus with the sutures in there can rip out those sutures, so you've got to be non-weight bearing for a period of 3 to 6 weeks depending on the surgeon and how severe the repair was. Whereas
that's why Maddie's still on crutches.
That's why Maddie's still on crutches. If he had just had the ACL repair and they had gone in and trimmed out the damaged area of the cartilage, he would have been off those crutches within 3 to 5 days probably.
We got about a minute left. Scott, tell us briefly what the rehab program is then for an athlete.
With an ACL, what you're going to see is initially we've got to try to get rid of the swelling and the inflammation, because when they go in there with the arthroscope, they have to shoot in saline into the joint, which causes swelling, which is going to decrease the range of motion. So we've got to get rid of that swelling as best as we can. And then we've got to work on range of motion, which is the most important thing to be doing first. And once that we are comfortable that the healing process is going well, we can start to work with exercises such as straight leg raises, knee extension exercises without weight, just using the weight of the leg, and then we can proceed on with that to start working on what we call closed chained exercises, which are like mini squats where you're standing, deep knee bends, or not deep initially, but doing knee bends, and then you're able to do exercises like the leg press in the gym. And then once you get a decent amount of strength and the ACL ligament has taken or is providing enough stability to move on to advanced activities, then we can start moving on to functional activities such as jumping, running, and those things that are going to be necessary for an athlete to be able to do in order to compete at a high level of athletics.
So it's really a season-ending injury. It takes a full season or more to get back to the strength and playing condition where you want the athlete to be.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, that was IPFW trainer Scott Knert explaining Matty Izashevsky's injury and also what Jeff Tack had in the fall. And we promise on the Arnie Ball Show never again to have an informative segment like that, or our ratings might improve, and we wouldn't want that to happen. Thanks a lot, Scotty. When we come back, Arnie's going to join me. We're going to talk a little bit about our Friday night match against New Jersey Tech, although neither of us know much about it. So stay here anyways, and we'll come up with some way to fill those 4 minutes.
Hi, I'm Amanda Tappan. On Stargate SG-1, my character discovered that the Stargate could be used as a key to unlock an endless variety of adventures. Your key for endless adventure is a good education. Don't limit your options. Stay in school.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. I forgot to list our sponsors last segment. So the sponsors from last segment were Farm Bureau Insurance and Freedom Financial, and for this segment, Fujifilm and Marathon Ashland Oil. Arnie, you were saying in the break here that Jeff Tack really didn't have an ACL. He had the meniscus, right?
That's correct. In the fall, Jeff, during practice, training practice, knee actually locked up. I mean, it literally locked up like that. He couldn't straighten out for 3 days till he had surgery. And instead of having an ACL tear, he actually took that meniscus, that cartilage that Scotty was talking about, and it flipped over. And when it flips over, then it locks the knee up. And so when Jeff went to have surgery, I was there with him at the hospital, Dr. Pritchard, who did the surgery, explained to Jeff that if it was tore too badly, he would have to take it out. And if he had to take it out, that probably by the time Jeff was 40 to 45, he'd have to have a knee replacement. Because you can't, I mean, your knee, now the bone rubs on bone. But his intent was to try and save it, and he was able to do that, and had to repair both sides, actually suture it and stitch it up, and that's why Jeff's not playing. And as you and Maddie were talking, or you and Scotty were talking about, that injury takes longer to rehab from than an actual ACL takes. That meniscus thing in there is why, at some point or another, I know I'm going to be a candidate to have my knees replaced, because all that just basically wears away. And so, in an athlete like Jeff and Maddie, if they're unable to repair that stuff, they can still play, but they'll play in a great deal of discomfort and probably be a candidate for knee replacement at a very early age.
And probably speed up the full deterioration of the knee that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to listen to Doc Pritchard talk to both the kids about this meniscus and how he felt so strongly that even if it kept them from playing another year or this year, that he needed to repair that if he could, just to save their knees on down the road.
That's why it's good to have a good team doctor like that, isn't it?
Well,
it's worth his weight in gold.
Unfortunately, I've learned way too much here in the last 3 or 4 years, because I was telling Mike there between the break, I think this is our 5th ACL tear, and it's my first meniscus one. And I've got a chance to go in the operating room a couple times with Doc on some of the repairs that he's done. And the procedure, Scotty talked about patella tendon, and they don't do that anymore just because they get away from jumper's knee and the procedures now. And the other thing that I was kind of in hopes, and I told you about that, I was kind of hopes you guys would talk about.
We don't want to end this on a high note, folks. So
this is a high note. This is pretty exciting stuff, though. I think is Maddie's actually gone through it twice, and his second repair, ACL repair, is actually cadaver ligament. It's not one that they harvested from him himself. So we've requested a real high jumping cadaver tendon. So hopefully he'll jump real high when he comes back.
And you're worried it might be one of Mike Moss's ancestors.
I made a special plea to make sure it was not one of Mike Moss's.
John, I forgot to ask you, are we televising Friday night? Nope, we're not on TV Friday night when we play New Jersey Tech, so that means you have to come out to the Gate Sports Center. It'll be at 7 o'clock. We don't know much about New Jersey Tech, so there's no reason to even try to talk about them, right?
The only thing I know about them is that they're having a season similar to ours. Actually, it's a little worse than ours. They got beat by Concordia, and we've beaten Concordia. They've struggled a little bit this year. We really don't know much about personnel in regards to them because we've not been able to get a videotape of them, but they probably don't know much about us either. So it could be an interesting night for sure.
So Friday night, 7 o'clock here at the Gate Sports Center. We're not on TV on Channel 56, so you'll need to come out. For head coach Arnie Ball, our guest trainer Scott Knurr, our sponsors, Alco, Dairy Queen, Farm Bureau Insurance, Freedom Financial, Fujifilm, Marathon, Ashland Oil, and our perennial whipping boy, Mike Moz. This is Mark Franke. So long. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next week. Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. This week we're going to preview our trip out east to play George Mason and Rutgers. Our guest is freshman outside hitter Nick Bellman. And when we return, Arnie and I will be talking about our win this last week at home over New Jersey Tech. So please keep it here. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke. Our sponsors for this segment are Alco and Dairy Queen, as they are every week. It's a good set of sponsors, and I figure by the end of the year I'll have all 6 of them memorized, and I won't have to use the cheat sheet that's up there underneath that camera that I read from.
Well, you're doing better than I am. I can't memorize them, but I don't have the cheat sheet to look at.
Yeah, I do have a cheat sheet. That's why I'm not that bright. Alco and Dairy Queen I remember, but then I start to struggle after that.
Well, those are a couple of our favorite sponsors.
That's right, they are. So we had a win, a 6-match losing streak. Is that a school record?
I don't know.
Probably got to be close to it.
I don't keep track of those things.
Oh.
Somebody else does.
Seemed like we were losing for a long time.
I only keep track of the winning streaks, not the losing streaks.
And what's our longest winning streak?
I don't know that either.
I think, so, I thought that's what you were keeping track of.
I do, but I don't remember.
You just don't remember. You keep track of it, you don't remember it. There's a big difference.
Yeah, I can go back and show you what they are, but.
I think, was it 92 or 93? We went on a long winning streak at the end of the season.
Whatever
Until we
you
got
say.
beat in the tournament, yeah.
I try not to look at those things.
That's when we were younger.
A lot younger.
Well, not a lot younger. We're still
a
pretty
lot
old
younger.
then.
That's back when Mike Moss didn't have that thing out that hangs out in front.
You're talking about is, what are you talking? I don't. We better not even go there.
I'm talking about his stomach.
Oh, stomach. Mike's back in the control room. He says, "Ah, go ahead, say beer gut."
This is a family show.
You know what he told me last
This is a
weekend?
family show, Mark. I can't say that kind
He
of
was
stuff.
at our match with his little granddaughter, and I was getting on him about it, and he said, "You know, I don't even drink beer." He says, "I got to be the only German Lutheran in this town who doesn't drink beer."
It can't be German Lutheran then.
Well, no, it's allowable.
It is?
Yeah, it is definitely allowable.
I don't know.
It's not a frequent occurrence. It's almost. Yeah,
That's even worse yet.
It's Missouri Synod, so we allow that.
Yeah.
You don't have to drink beer.
You don't?
No.
That's how I got in.
And maybe how you get out, too. Because there are some restrictions. Well, I don't know how we're going to fill the remainder of these 6 minutes talking about New Jersey Tech. But
we can do that.
We can do that. We started off well in Game 1. We kind of went flat there in Game 2 and carried that over to Game 3, and then we came back well in Game 4. We do that a lot this year, don't we?
Game 3 thing, especially at home, that 10-minute break. We got to do away with that 10-minute break, I guess. That's been a kiss of death for us.
Yeah, then in 10 minutes we had the little Harris girls doing their cheerleading again, and
they were great.
And
it's always
we had
great
the
to have
dance team. I forget, we had something else going on.
John Sweet's always great to have him and the kids from Harris here. They do such a great job.
I was getting a kick out of them during the warm-up. They sit over there in the one corner, and as our players on the left side were warming up, they hit the ball in their direction. Every time a ball would come at them, they'd all scream. None of them would get out of the way or try to deflect it. Old John was running up and down the sidelines there trying to keep getting hit, and all they'd do is scream.
Well, that's good for John. He needs the exercise.
He needs the exercise. That's
for sure. But, one of the things that happens, we go to Harris every year with the team. And, of course, the net's about 4'3" high. So, the kids can bounce the ball into the rafters, into the ceiling, and the kids scream every time. So that's probably where all that comes from.
So even Dusty Sherman can bounce one then, right?
No.
No, not it's
No.
Still too high for Dusty.
That's too high. And we actually hit balls at Dusty instead of allow him to hit balls. We
Oh, so
actually
he's
hit
the
them
target.
at him. Yeah, he's the target. And the kids like that too, because it's kind of like dodgeball. They relate to dodgeball, even though I think we've outlawed dodgeball. But I can't have any fun anymore.
Well, I don't think the theory with Dusty is dodgeball. I think it's the opposite. He's supposed to move in front of the ball.
What games you been watching?
We got to get Dusty on the show.
I
Give him
watched some
equal
tapes.
time.
I'm losing my earpiece here, but we watched some tapes that in our video room where we got a whole team playing dodgeball.
Well, as long as the
Ooh,
ball's
don't hit
going
me.
out of bounds, that's probably the best way to do
Yeah,
it.
but they're not going out of bounds.
I think last week we played a number of them that were headed out of bounds.
Well, at least we were being aggressive last week. So,
that's right.
Getting back to, have we ever got started on New Jersey
No,
Tech?
we didn't get started.
Well, anyhow, we should ask Mike what no, I don't still go that route. You're going to have Nick Bellman on here in a few minutes.
That's
and
right.
He had maybe his best night since he's been here.
He had a service ace.
I don't even remember that part. I'm talking about his passing and his offense and blocking stuff.
Yeah.
I thought he played real well against New Jersey Tech, and obviously we need those young kids to play well as we go on through the season, because Angel and Josh cannot continue just to carry us by themselves. And both those guys Josh was really good against New Jersey Tech offensively. our middle attack has been just really good when we can handle the ball.
Yeah, and some nights, though, when the middle attack isn't doing very well, we really struggle.
Well, and a little bit of that happened with Game 3 on Friday night. Nick was playing well, but Ryan Staley had a very poor night. And he's had some poor nights, but this is maybe the poorest one he's had. Just got struggling with passing, blocking, hitting. We always watch the tape early in the week, and we've already watched the tape. And poor Ryan, it just seemed like everything that he did was wrong.
And he's the kind that is so serious all the time. He just keeps trying harder and harder, and the tenser he gets, the worse he makes it.
Yeah, and certainly you can't fault how hard he plays. The kid just plays really, really hard. But you're right on. The harder he plays, especially in the negative mode, when he's made a couple errors, the more errors that he makes, and they seem to be at glaring times for him, and it just makes it much more difficult. But certainly, I was really pleased with Angel and Josh's offense, and I thought Nick played really well also.
Actually, the one good part of Ryan's game is he served very well.
Well, he's been our best server. He and Angel have been our best servers all year long. Ryan's problem is that, and he has a better serve than Angel as far as the velocity is concerned. The problem is that he runs a couple in a row and then he sails one on the back wall or hits it into the net. If we ever get him to be really consistent, I think we can score a lot of points off of his serve and Angel's serve. And we have to do that because, in this rally scoring, you got to score those real points, and if you don't, it's pretty hard to win.
And when he's playing next to Josh, they're a good contrast in serving because Josh, it doesn't have a hard jump serve, but he has good placement.
Josh has served well for us this year too. That floats. Since we moved him up on the line, and we did that early this winter, moved him right up on the line. The ball gets on the receiver fairly quickly, and he's been effective in serving as well.
Yeah. Actually, you haven't seen this yet. I just sent the serving stats over to you. But two of our top servers were Nick and Mitch.
I need to look at your numbers.
Ryan, I think, might have been the top, but those three were the ones who were above the goal that you set.
I believe you, but I need to look at them. Angel didn't have a really good night serving.
No.
That's the poorest night he's had for a while.
Angel struggled on serving for the last couple of matches, so we'll have to work on that.
Well, he's getting tired, I imagine.
It's probably good, yeah. We were talking about whether his arm was going to fall off.
Oh, man, he hits a lot of balls.
When we come back, Nick Bellman will join me. We'll talk a little bit about his first year here at IPFW, so please keep it tuned in here.
It is more than a trial by fire. It is a rite of passage, a challenge to join the elite. And if you succeed, if you can master your fear, outsmart your enemy, and never yield even to yourself, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. This segment is sponsored by Farm Bureau Insurance and Freedom Financial. Our guest this week is freshman outside hitter Nick Bellman. Nick is from Canton, Ohio, or nearby, right?
Akron, Ohio.
Akron, okay, which isn't far from Canton, is it?
No, 30 minutes north.
Probably if I'm driving in that area, I'm probably lost anyways and will end up in one city or the other by mistake. So, Nick, how did you end up at IPFW?
Well, I actually started off by taking a year off of school. I graduated in 2000. Decided to take a year off of school because I was 17 years old. I could still play club one more year. So I just took that year to work, play volleyball.
What'd you do? What kind of job?
First, I worked at a sports facility and where I was the volleyball director, ran clinics and did some coaching there. That was a good experience, but then I also worked a second job as a telemarketer.
Oh, that would get you back in college in a hurry, wouldn't it? Get back in school.
Yeah, that was a motivation.
So you wanted to get some extra volleyball training in.
Yeah.
Was the year successful in that regard?
I think so, because one of my main options to go to school was actually going to be New Jersey Tech. And after seeing them play, I'm really glad I came here. So
that was a team we beat last week, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it's about time we won one. So after a 6-match losing streak, it was nice to beat up on somebody for a change, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just had a tough schedule. The team started getting down, but it's good to finally get a W.
When you said you were thinking about New Jersey Tech, was it because of the degree programs they offered and we had the same one?
I was interested in the school, and then also they offered a lot to help financially, and I was needing that. But being able to stay out a year, I also worked a lot and got a lot of money to also help to choose where I really wanted to go to school.
And what are you majoring in?
Right now I'm majoring in business, and when I declare, I'm going to declare marketing.
Marketing. Oh, so the telemarketing was somewhat up your alley.
Yeah, but it was still wasn't an enjoyable experience.
I can imagine.
That many hours on the phone.
You probably got the phone slammed down.
You get used to it after a while.
A lot of verbal abuse from people who got tired of being pulled off the dinner table or whatever.
Yeah, you get used to it after a while. Doesn't even bother you anymore.
Does it? No. Well, we probably ruined your reputation with the crowd here now. They're going to be booing you every time they see you. But going back,
I only called people in Ohio, so don't hate me.
So don't hate you. That's right. You decided to come to IPFW. You came here in the fall. Actually, you started the season as our libero, didn't you?
Yes. Originally, I thought when I came here, my freshman year, my only expectations were to try and get on the court and help the team as libero. Then, because of the injuries, kind of got thrust into the outside hitter position, and a lot more added responsibilities with that.
And so now you're playing on the left side, or sometimes we'll call it the swing hitter position. And you're really filling in the position that Jeff Patak and Matty Zabashevsky were in and were injured. So it's you and Ryan Staley basically out there. Now last week you started in one position and moved to the other in game 2. By that I mean you started out, let's see, next to the setter and then moved 2 away, or is it the other way around? You
started next to the setter.
Started next to and then moved 2 away. Most people probably wouldn't maybe even have noticed that, but it's very important in terms of the way the volleyball offense develops. So maybe you could explain a little bit about that?
There's just different responsibilities. Like when you're next to the setter, you're not going to have as many front row attackers, and the setter might need to count on you a little bit more just to be able to side out if the team gets in trouble. If you're 2 away, then you're going to have more rotations with an opposite hitter. That way, if you're also getting in trouble, you're going to have an opposite hitter to help bail you out, maybe.
How does it affect your passing? Does it at all?
Not really. It kind of changes where I'm passing in the back row, but it doesn't have too much effect.
Especially with 3 passers now with the libero, that makes it probably less important than when we used a 2-passer system back in the old days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice, especially having the libero spot gives me a chance when there aren't any injuries to be on the court and help the team.
It's got to be tough as a freshman, Nick. You've not played at this level. You played in club, I'm sure a good club, and saw a lot of good competition. But now you're at the collegiate level and at a very high level like the MIVA is. And you're a freshman, you're coming new into a program, and all of a sudden these 2 starters who are returning both go down with injuries, and you find yourself in the starting lineup.
Yeah, it was a surprise. Like I said, coming in here, I was expecting to hopefully help the team as a libero. Just the responsibilities of passing, defense, covering. And now because of the injuries, I have to keep those responsibilities and then add on being able to attack the volleyball, block, and it's a lot to deal with, but hopefully I'll pick it up and help the team out. So.
One of the things that makes it especially difficult in your position as one of the primary passers, you could be handling the ball nearly every play. And that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, not quite as much, I don't think, as Dennis, who's also a freshman, and he knows he's going to have to handle the ball every play. But
and once you get into the flow of things, you might be nervous going out or something, but then as the game gets going, you kind of forget that and you just do your thing that you've been trained to do.
Actually, I think that's probably been one of my biggest problems, and it's not so much the nervousness of playing, but I'll end up getting down on myself out of play, or just I get really tense up, and what that affects most is my passing. But that's one of my sole jobs, to kind of start the playoff, but with a good pass.
You need to really be relaxed to pass, don't you? Because you need a nice soft platform for the ball to hit so you can control it.
Yeah, passing is more very relaxed movement, and then right from that you go to hit. You got to be really aggressive movement. So
you have a passive-aggressive personality. Is that maybe we ought to have a psychologist do our recruiting for us so we get the right kind of player, right?
Yeah.
So how do you work out that tenseness, or where you start turning inward too much and worrying about the past mistakes you made rather than focusing on what's coming next?
Well, so far I still haven't figured out the best way just yet. Still working on that. One thing is just trying to relax. Just try and forget about what happened and really know that the next play is what's important, not what happened. But.
Can having to play volleyball here be any more nerve-wracking than showing up on the show for the first time, having to sit in that seat with the cameras on you? Most freshmen, and you're doing a good job, a lot of freshmen will come in and will have trouble answering questions and can make it a very long 10 minutes.
Well, I don't know, just trying to answer questions comfortably. My biggest worry was making this chair squeak a little bit and making the mic people mad. But.
Well, the chair's been here a long time, and as have several of the rest of us. But going back to your play, not only are you new, but then you've got two other freshmen on the floor, maybe sometimes three. Mm-hmm. And as you said, Dennis is Santiago is a freshman setter, who's really the team quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the team leader, which we thought would be Jeff Patak, is now an assistant coach for a year, isn't he?
Yes.
So what does that do to the dynamics, not only during the game, but beforehand, the week when you're practicing and so forth?
I'd say one of the biggest things it's really done is, especially with Angel and Josh, it's giving them new leadership roles, where maybe last year Jeff would be the leader on the court and during practice, items like that. Now really Josh and Angel have to kind of step up, be the leaders, which they've really been doing a nice job with. Also, same thing in preparation in the weeks before. Jeff is still there to help us, but the real ones that we have to turn to, because we do on the court, is going to be Angel and Josh.
And that's kind of difficult because they're in the middle positions, and normally that's not where you need to go to look for leadership, because the middles are too dependent upon a good pass, excellent timing, and so forth. Whereas in your position, quite often you're going to get a bad set or a release set or something, or everybody knows it's coming to you. So it's a little different situation. You have to rely on the middles to carry the offense, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a very frustrating situation for them too, because so oftentimes, especially on a tough team, if they bring a good serve and our passes aren't that good that day, then a lot of times they'll be taken out of the offense. Very frustrating for them to just kind of have to sit back and watch what's going on.
And then everybody knows it's going to come to you or to Ryan out there on the left side.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got Angel hitting out of the back row, and that helps too.
That helps a great deal, and Angel has really been hitting really well out of the back row.
Yeah, that certainly helped, but that was needed. You don't do much hitting out of the back row in your position, do you?
No. I'm still trying to work on being able to put the ball down in the front row.
Okay, well, that's a good plan. That's a good game plan. You keep working on that, you'll improve quite nicely, and Coach Ball will be happy as Coach Ball can be. When we come back, the grumpy Coach Ball will join me again, and we'll talk a little bit about this week's trip out east to George Mason and Rutgers. So please keep it here on Channel 56.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, it kills over 1,500 people every year and injures 71,000 more. Inadequate sleep has been linked to health and safety risks, even premature death. But today, new treatments are helping millions get the sleep they need. So talk to your doctor or take our free risk assessment on the web at sleepfoundation.org. Sleep deprivation. It's real, it's dangerous, and it's more treatable than ever.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Arnie Ball Show, and our sponsors are Fujifilm and Marathon Ashland Oil. Let's see, how do we leave that last segment?
I have two responses.
Two. Okay.
You should never give me enough time to respond. Grumpy, huh? Is that what it's Grouchy, grumpy, whatever?
I think grumpy was probably the term I used.
Well, you should have asked Mr. Bellman why I might have been grumpy after yesterday's practice.
No, I did not want to ask him that.
Yeah, they were awful yesterday in practice. The whole bunch of them. Even the coaches were awful yesterday.
We didn't think you'd stay happy for very long.
It was awful. Number two, I had to get up really early this morning to shovel the snow out of my driveway because you didn't come and help.
I was at work.
I was up really early this morning.
I was at work. No matter when you got up, I was at work.
And there was snow in my driveway, and you have a snow blower, and all I have is a shovel. And I had to shovel my driveway out.
I didn't even bother. There was
people
half an inch at the most.
If you don't get it off there, you're the guy that told me that. If you don't get it off there, and your wife drives out over it, and it goes thump, 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 and then it freezes, and you can't get it off.
Well, actually, the temperature's gone up. This is Tuesday, and when I walked over here, I checked on my computer, and it said that the temperature was already 28.
Oh, that's a heat wave.
So
yeah, that'll melt the snow. Duh.
Compared to yesterday, mine will all be melted. And yours will be melted too, but I didn't have to get up early and shovel it.
Well, I did.
I'm proud of you. Why didn't you do mine while you're at it?
You guys got the snow blower. I have the shovel. What's wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
Huh?
I have a bad attitude about that sometimes.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
This winter in particular.
If Johnson doesn't get that bridge built across the creek so he can come over and clean out my driveway.
Well, it's got to be wide enough now for me to get my snow blower over it too.
Well, I'll throw in a couple extra bucks.
Okay.
For the bridge.
I guess we'd rather talk about shoveling snow than this trip we have to make this weekend. We got to go to our favorite city in the world, Newark, New Jersey.
Let me tell you the ways that it's our favorite city. I just talked to Coach Hansen this morning because they lost to Rutgers.
At Ohio State, right?
It was at Rutgers.
Oh, at Rutgers.
It was at Rutgers. And he is complaining and belly aching about the Golden Dome. I said, well, I got to tell you, Coach Hansen, the only reason we're going is because Coach Feronke has begged me to go back to the Golden Dome.
That's right.
He has begged and begged and begged. Actually, we're going to do some pretty neat things. The heck with volleyball.
we do have to play in the Golden Dome, which is not nearly as impressive as it sounds.
It's not golden, but it's a dome. And it's in the middle of kind of a depressed part of the city. Depressed.
To the extent that there are parts that are more depressed than others, right? But we start at Fairfax, which is a nice town in Virginia.
We're just not going to be there very long. That's the problem with that one.
Then we go to, that's Friday night. Saturday night we go to Rutgers, and then Sunday afternoon we're going to take the boys down to Broadway.
Yep. Do a little entertainment.
A little entertainment.
Be good for them.
Yep. Get a little culture.
Yep. And
given the kind of music they listen to on the bus coming home or the news they want to watch,
exactly
they need all the culture we can get them.
We'll take them to a play on Sunday afternoon, and then there are a few of us going to land on the David Letterman show Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon. Yep. So that That'll be a fun time. A few of the older boys, going to take some of the older boys. And
I think it's at the Ball State team. Every time they go to California, they always get on one of those shows.
and they get them the Price is Right. Well, we're going to one-up them. We're going to be on the David Letterman show. And the really highlight of the whole trip probably will get a chance to see Billy Anderson.
Billy from, that was late 80s, wasn't it, when he was here?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he is, I just talked to him yesterday. He's still living in Brooklyn and working with youth and placement of youth who are basically homeless into foster homes and stuff like that. And I told him this time, remember the last time we went?
Yeah.
He had a real tragedy and with one of the kids, and I said, no tragedies this time, Billy. We want to spend some time with you. So
he's
that'll
not
be
only
fun.
had tragedies with his kids, he's actually been shot himself.
That's correct.
So he's had a tough life after he left here. He thought it was tough playing for you, and then he went to New York City.
But it'll be fun seeing Billy. I haven't seen Billy since we were out there the last time.
Yeah. So it'll be good to see him
So
again.
he's going to come to the game one Saturday, and maybe he'll be a good luck charm for us, and we'll get him to take care of all the periphery kind of things, because I'm sure he can handle it. We can win the volleyball game. Both those teams are pretty good too, by the way. They're both playing real well.
Are they playing well?
Yep.
Well, we played well last week.
So if we can play well and they play well, maybe we can win one or two, or at least have a long bus trip.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a long win, lose, or draw. We're going to have a long bus trip. For head coach Arnie Ball, our guest Nick Bellman, our sponsors Alco Dairy Queen, Farm Bureau Insurance, Freedom Financial, Fujifilm, and Marathon Ashland Oil. Smart Frankie, so long. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next week when I think they're going to run a repeat. So we're not going to tape next week.
Be the best show of the year.
Maybe it will be the Mark Pope show. I don't know. We'll have to see. Thanks for watching.